There you go. Welcome to Live at the Hive, episode 26. I'm Dan Nedelko.
Courtney Castle.
I'm Justin Maciel.
And I'm going to remember to turn off the special effects this time, because I forgot last week. Boom. There we go. So we are now officially live since Facebook says so.
Woohoo!
Good stuff.
Facebook says that it's true.
Yes, this is correct. This is correct. So, always Hannah Trafford is our first viewer.
Always. Thanks, Hannah, for tuning in. Hope you're feeling well.
All right. So today we are doing landing page conversion rate optimization and the GDPR. Dun, dun, dun.
T-minus 2 weeks till it comes into effect.
Exactly T-minus 2 weeks, actually, to the day.
It was a subject header for an email I just got. So
that is exactly.
2 days?
I think I got
2 weeks. It was like, you've only have 2 weeks to prepare, marketers.
Yes, it is exactly 2 weeks. One of the first shout outs today, though, from an old Honeypot alumni. It's Paige O'Grady's birthday today, so happy birthday, Paige. She sometimes drops in.
Hope you're going camping or something, or having some drinks or whatever you're doing. Maybe having some cake.
I hope you're not across the hall at D2L right now.
But yeah, have a good birthday weekend, Paige. I know you'll be up to something cool.
Absolutely. Glamping.
Maybe.
So on today's episode, we got cut off actually last time Justin was on. Literally, we got cut off. I'm not sure what happened.
Technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, the CPU. We didn't have the streaming setup that we have now, and we had a laptop, and it was causing conniptions for the laptop, and the laptop just said, "Forget it, we're done."
Some troubles, yeah. So we're
It was out.
going at it again for another round. We got our creative director back with us in the hot seat, so we figured CRO part 2.
Yes, fresh off of where were you? Mexico? Mexican vacation.
Yeah,
nice.
Dan and I aren't just washed out. Justin's just really tanned right now.
I'm actually tanned.
Yeah, I guess it's just me. I'm the snowflake. That's fine.
There you go.
Looks like an Oreo.
Okay, that's what we'll go with.
Oh, jeez. Okay. He went there. Okay, yeah, so coming up soon is Digital Agency Day.
Yeah, a week from Monday, May 21st, is Digital Agency Day. So obviously a big deal for us. You know, we celebrate it every year. But yeah, you can stay tuned for a couple freebies and some other things coming from us.
Yeah.
Straight to our Live with the Hive audience for Digital Agency Day.
Yep. And so obviously one of the things in the lead up to Digital Agency Day, which is put on by HubSpot and it looks like Digital Marketer this year, and a number of others, I think, Unbounce.
There's lots of big names that are involved in it every year for obvious reasons. Some of the staple tools that you have probably used before. Yep, Unbounce is one of them. There's a whole gambit you can see. But yeah, it's a great free kind of event that they host every year, and basically it's a digital webinars, a series of them focused for agency marketers. So if you do work in an agency, and really even if you don't, you know, while it does have an agency focus to it, it's still good for all marketers.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you're scrolling through the page.
I am scrolling through the page right now. And it just kind of, you know, one of the things that we deal with day in and day out is for our campaigns, our landing pages and registrations for live events, for downloads, for lead magnets, for free trials, all of the things. Yeah,
a landing page is just such an important piece. It's the destination to any of your campaigns, whether it's, you know, like Dan said, whether it's content marketing or actual like a paid ad campaign. It's really the destination that you are sending your traffic to, where you are trying to get them to take an action and capture them.
And my wife just said hi, guys, so I have to say hi.
Hey, Nicole. What up?
Yeah. So one of the things I think that's important, we should maybe kind of take a step back and talk about the importance of landing pages first. One of the resources that you can start with, and it's really well done by the co-founder of Unbounce. That's an inside joke. You may have seen it. Anyways, Ollie Gardner, who is one of the co-founders and an old friend of mine, we worked together for many, many years, put together this great framework on what's called conversion-centered design, and kind of invented this terminology. And there's some key elements to landing pages and why they're important. Like one of the first things when you're thinking about your landing pages is to consider the distractions of a typical website and or homepage.
For sure. And like, I think we've said it a couple times before on the program, but if you are directing traffic to a homepage, please don't. Please try to find another page to direct them to. A homepage is very distracted, and it's very difficult to have a user try to determine what is the next action for them to take.
Them too much freedom.
If you can imagine, like, they could get onto your homepage, perhaps they see, oh look, they're on Instagram. They click through on your Instagram account. Yeah, there are many different nav options. There's just a lot of places for you to go. And this isn't, your funnel should not be a pick your own adventure. It should be a very clear, definitive step after step process for the lead.
That's right. It's called an attention deficit ratio. So if you have one message that you're looking to get across to somebody, whether it's join, start your free trial, download, whatever it is, that's the key messaging that you want to reinforce on the landing page through both your creative and your copy. Yeah. But if you look at, so I just pulled up the Honeypot Marketing homepage here, and you can see that for every single link that doesn't lead to that specific goal, right, you are creating a ratio that is basically an attention deficit ratio. You're increasing the odds that that person will not, in fact, complete the goal that you want.
For sure, yeah. And it's a question we get often, I think, in terms of the landing pages you put together. Like, are you only allowed to have one link per page, one destination per page? And I think it just really means, like, what scenario are you using this page for? Sometimes people will have, like, if it's a first touch, they like to have kind of like a company information link on there as well for someone who may not want the direct offer you're giving them, but wants to learn more about who the heck you are. So, there could be an argument made theoretically in some instances, to add that kind of secondary link, but really just try to focus.
Or like at the bottom, footers and stuff where you have to have like privacy policies, terms and conditions, stuff like that. That or like you will have to direct them away just for legal matters as well.
Yep. It's another exception to the rule. Yep. But yeah, really just focus all the elements of the page towards this one action as well. It's not just the fact of how many links you physically have on the page, but just all the elements, the design, the copy, the formatting, everything is all working together towards that one action and that one message.
Totally. So just to circle back to the 7 principles of conversion-centered design, and I'll just pop it up here. There are the 7 principles that all the outlines that are actually really well laid out. The first one was attention. The second one is context, clarity, congruence. So a congruency of your message all the way through. Are you saying the same thing from start to finish? That's a very common thing that we see. A lot of companies make that mistake. They'll say one thing and then change the message right through. Credibility, so social proof, closing. And then continuance, and continuance being the funnel that continues to warm the lead once you've captured the lead and provide that additional value.
For sure, and I think we mentioned it last week. If you're capturing that lead, make sure you have a next step planned for them. You're not just accumulating lead lists in your database that you kind of look at after the fact, like, hey, we had 200 people enter that contest. That's cool. It's like, what's the next step for them? Yes. What is their next, what is the next thing they should do to move further down your funnel? So
yeah, exactly. And you want to, so for example, let's use the contesting example that you used. You'll have one winner and 199 losers if you had 200 entrants. Right? So by and large, you're going to have a lot of people there that didn't do anything. So a special discount, a special gift, maybe a follow-up contest. All of those different things to kind of incentivize, excite, surprise, and delight are a great way to kind of activate people after you've done that.
Oh yeah, right? People feel more appreciated.
There you go. So we're gonna jump into an example landing page here, which was the one I believe we were going through on the last episode.
Yeah, we started, but we'll reset. I don't think we got very far into it.
There we go.
So.
There we go. So maybe, Courtney, can give some background on what this is.
Yeah, so basically we work with our local Chamber of Commerce here, the Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber, on some of their event series. They offer a lot of great series on networking, workshops, things like that, really focused towards helping the businesses in the region just to improve across the board, whether it's something logistical or whether it's marketing focused. So this series in particular is for young professionals. We have several post-secondary schools here in Waterloo region, and we also have just a really healthy, like young professional audience because of the nature of like the tech companies and entrepreneurship here. So this is kind of the Chamber's way to address that market and try to help young professionals network, build their professional audiences and career build, basically. Kind of a skill that I think, you know, really should be focused on, especially if you're going into something like marketing or sales. A lot of marketers are very shy about those kinds of things, but it's really, it's kind of the name of the game. You know, if you're too shy to network, like it's a traditional marketing channel in my opinion. But yeah, this is a page for a monthly or bi-monthly event that we host with them that we've set up for people to register. This is the second rendition of this campaign. It was run successfully last year and had a great impact on their awareness of the events, but also on the actual attendance and the membership of the Chamber as well. So this is kind of rendition 2.0, but maybe we can walk you through and start by just kind of walking through the above the fold section, Justin.
So best practices here, pretty simple and basic, is you have to have the CTA above the fold. That's one of the main things. And on this landing page specifically, we have two, but you can tell right away which one's the main one just by the fill itself, and one is a bit more see-through and it doesn't pop out as much. This one is a less aggressive landing page, but normally you would want a CTA that is a bit more contrasting other than black on a blue. For blue, normally a contrasting color is really good, is orange. So that's normally what I would use for something like this. And then what's nice about this landing page is kind of above the fold, you see that there's a bit of a video, which is nice. So that even scrolling down, video marketing is really strong. So it's good that even though that it's not fully above the fold, you can still see that there's more content there, which kind of intrigues people.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the most important things, often people will be focused on the color of the call to action or the color of the button. And in fact, here's another great example right there, is it's the contrast, so that it pops and that it is easily distinguishable from the rest of the content. So your eye immediately goes to that section. The other thing I think that's really important, that's really great about this landing page, although it seems simple, is as soon as you land there, it is absolutely clear what it is that is, what is going on and what is kind of being asked of you. Quite often, there will be really top-heavy explanations on a landing page. I think one of the key things to remember is that your customer doesn't care about you, and it sounds harsh, but it's true. And often marketers will talk about how great their product is, and if you're a business owner, how great we are and how great this is. And it's really, you've got to tailor the message. Why is it great for the reader, right? And what is it? And so this one, in particular, right? So it's very clear. Make connections on Tuesday, May 15th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Cellar 52. Okay, I get it. I see right away what you're asking me to do.
The event details aren't hidden and buried in some line of copy further down the page. People understand immediately what time it is, what date it is, where is it, and what are you asking me to do.
So already people already feel more comfortable because they already know the basics. They know when the event is. They're like, oh, can I go? Can I not? Then if they can go, then info is right underneath, perfect for more info.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they've clicked through from an ad that says this same information, that is like, here is an event that you should attend, here's how to get more information in the ticket, and then you arrive at a page that gives you more information and the ticket. So it's the logistical connection.
Exactly. Right? The other thing that's important is to address initial pain points or objections immediately. And you can see that that's our secondary call to action. So someone may look at that immediately and say, oh, I can't go on May 15th.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Which for networking events and events in general, we all know we all lead very busy lives. Yeah. So that is usually for an event, the typical number one challenge or number one, whatever you might say, that the opposition that someone might put up. And so, then we have the landing page further down on the page. We've also kind of introduced another opportunity that if people cannot make it, we should collect these people who are interested. Perhaps they want to hear about when the next one is happening. We've actually been able to organically build up a lead list for them as well, for other people who aren't members and perhaps haven't attended an event or maybe only attended one randomly, but would like to still be kind of kept in the loop on when they're happening. And that's really how you get that kind of great mix for an event of new people and reoccurring like people as well, loyal followers. So it's a healthy mix.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if anyone's watching right now, or even if you're watching on the recorded version, which is typically where we get actually our most viewers, the highest number, if you've got any questions or comments about landing pages, or any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, the secondary CTA, always trying to capture as much of that audience as you possibly can, and providing additional value. So for example, if this were a webinar, you would have the ability to get the recording immediately after, right?
Yeah,
watch it on demand.
It's a very popular messaging you may see, where I get a lot of webinar invites, is that it's like, hey, you can't make it, still register and we'll send you the recording. Yeah. So like it's still trying to capture that lead in some sense, and just combat people's schedules, right? For events, webinars, anything that's timely like that requires attendance.
One thing I do want to know, if you go down to the fill form at the bottom.
Sure.
One thing I do want to know is, notice that all the labels are at the top where you fill. Normally when people, when it's inside and they click it and that goes away, people are less likely to fill it because it's part of like user experience or they'll give you wrong info. So always make sure that info is at the top of it, or it doesn't disappear or goes to the top of it as soon as they click it, because that's a huge deal.
Absolutely. The other thing you can do, and these are, it's funny, I think a lot of people think that conversion rate optimization, there's a science to it and it can get complicated, but oftentimes it's the simplest things that are overlooked that have the biggest impact. The other thing you can do is pre-fill the text box area with sample text and increase the size of it to make it, to your point, just to make it absolutely clear where and when, what's intended to be filled out here. Just a couple of comments on the video side of it. Whenever you're designing a landing page, and there's tons of CRO research, but even in our own tests, a human being making some form of eye contact with the camera or near the camera, as you can see there, we've got the two individuals look to be engaged in a pretty exciting conversation. The girl on the right seems really excited. But that type of visual is extremely important. Try to move away from stock imagery if you can. And try to get people that are from the event, actually at the event, looking towards the camera or actual testimonials. And that's part of the social proof side of things.
And the other half you'll notice, that's my kind of favorite kind of easy win for people when they give me a landing page or some page and they ask, how would you increase the conversion rate on this, is that when you hover over the video, you'll also notice that it's hosted by our friends at Vidyard and our Vidyard platform. So it is not a YouTube embed. If this is a YouTube embed, you would see the normal.
Sorry.
Oh, that's loud.
Sorry. The volume is cranked on the little laptop. That's my fault.
If that were, you can see as the regular feed, you can pause, you can do whatever, you can make it full screen, but it does not have the videos that come afterwards, other suggested videos, and most importantly, it doesn't have the click away link to go to YouTube, which would then send someone, perhaps they're interested, they're watching your video, and then they're like, oh, I could go watch this on YouTube, and then they're away on YouTube watching other videos.
They're watching, cats. Cat meme video or whatever.
And they're lost. So that's a very, if you don't have a video hosting platform, I would suggest looking into it. There's also other ways that you can kind of use your, just leverage that and create that without doing the YouTube embed. I think that that's an important thing as well, as you're trying not to send people away. So.
Yeah, you definitely want to retain them there. The other cool thing, Andrew said Vidyard's pretty cool. Yeah, it is really cool, and it's a little bit on the pricier side, so it might be out of certain people's price ranges. But one thing that Vidyard has are really incredible CRM integrations with the engagement on the video. So, for example, if we're using Vidyard, and let's just use a HubSpot example as a CRM integration, or Salesforce, for example, with the integrations, the sales team would be able to see that Justin watched 78% of all of the videos in the library, which means that Justin is highly engaged in that video library. So it's Vidyard's incredibly powerful. It does come at a slight premium. Your other option for a lower cost premium is Wistia, which is a great tool as well.
They don't really have the sales aspect of that Vidyard does, though. Yes, like I've been to many like Vidyard conferences and whatnot. The sales integration side of Vidyard is just, you could watch a lead and you get a notification when they've stopped watching a video, started watching a video. Like depending on how structured your chase is and your sales team is, it can be a really great sales asset in addition to marketing. But yeah, Wistia is a good. It's a good video hosting platform. Yeah, like Dan said, slightly more. Just on the less expensive side, I guess, not as enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of tools for different types of companies and individuals out there. And if you absolutely have no budget, and if you absolutely have to, there are certain ways with special YouTube embed flags. You have to hunt them down. Actually, I think we probably have one on the website on Honeypot Marketing about how to remove those features. You have to jump through a few hoops to do it. And it's still not the most preferable, but if you are absolutely budget limited.
Yeah, and if you are using YouTube and you're like, I don't know how to use anything else, I don't know what you guys are talking about, at the very least, when you grab your embed code from YouTube, there are a couple checkboxes underneath that are like, do not show other suggested videos. Yes, do not show like ads or anything like that. Please at least check those boxes off and it will alter the embed code for you. Yes, they could still click away to YouTube. It'll just be a cleaner experience and you won't have like, say, a competitor's video showing up afterwards or something.
Well, and that's the thing is YouTube is fantastic at identifying related videos. And if it's on your YouTube company page, it will identify that your competitors probably have one as well. And it will likely source similar videos that will show up immediately when your video plays, which is kind of the last thing you really would want to feature on your investment.
For sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about video hosting too is visually you can actually change the colors and stuff to like match your brands and stuff.
Yep.
So you can have your own kind of fun and like keep everything consistent that way.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. The other thing on the side of the structure of the page, it's important to also kind of give a highlight and keep in mind, you don't have to write the next great American novel. People are very attention deficits are at an all-time high. That's one of the reasons, for example, this is hosted on Unbounce, a product we have almost 500 landing pages in there. I was just looking at it. There are a whole series of benefits to using a platform like Unbounce, not the least of which is that they are very focused on site speed, right? Site speed is a huge indicator, one, for just users. If a page takes 20 seconds to load because they're on a slow server or you're having an issue, you will lose people. They just don't have the patience for it. And the nice thing about Unbounce is as long as we compress the images, Justin.
I know. I love
it's just a thing. Justin's got a print background, so it's second nature, right? But you can run all your images through compressor.io, and it will give you a preview. That's pretty much all that you need to do to make sure that your page is going to deliver very quickly. And again, certain times people have this feeling of a sense of ownership. It has to go on my domain or it has to go on my WordPress site. It does not. And it should not in many cases. For all sorts of reasons. You can cross-link these with your main site and drive people over to it. But just the one point here is design your language and your copy for scannability, right? Give them the highlights. Think of those viral videos you see on Facebook sometimes, like all the time now. Yeah. But with the text, like just hit them with the quickest amount of information. Yeah. If you have an informational product, you can kind of teaser people through.
Yeah, I would say being concise is probably one of the most challenging and one of the most important things about copywriting, which obviously is a huge aspect of landing page building and just marketing in general. A lot of people, just through our school system and things like that, are taught academic writing and like long form and really explaining things and meeting that like 5,000 word limit. Copywriting is the complete opposite. It is how to find a way to catch that idea perfectly in a phrase as concise as possible.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And You know, it's always one of my favorite things for anybody that's in copywriting, like, so basically every marketer in the world. The task is to create 20 Google search advertising ads, because you have content limits, or LinkedIn ads, because you have 150 characters in the title, 80 in a sponsored content title, and then 180, I believe, in the description. So you don't have a choice in that case. And it's a great way to really try to learn to laser focus your communications, right?
One thing as we move to mobile too is sometimes a nice like long header looks good in desktop, but as soon as you switch it over to mobile, it's like you have so much space gone that you could have put like a CTA above the fold or something that was totally gone, because that title is now like 5 lines instead of 2.
Yep.
So it's something that you have to think about as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and try to think about that, like Justin said, like before. Like, don't build out your desktop landing page to be like, all right, now let's make a mobile version from it, because you'll probably end up like, you'll probably end up cutting out elements that are important, or it'll probably be like a lesser version, so to speak. I'm not that, like, obviously mobile, I'm gonna say that most people probably have at least 50% mobile audience traffic to your sites and things like that. And in some cases, depending on the industry you're in, it's even more. It could be up to like 90% mobile traffic. So depending on who you are, look into your stats and your analytics, see in Facebook, in GA, where are your people coming from? Are they mobile? And in which case, design mobile first for your landing page, and then worry about desktop afterwards.
Yeah, and have 2 versions. So what I've done here, and if you're not familiar with HTML and CSS, excuse me, just getting over a little cold. This is the mobile view in Google Chrome. And you can see here that it's properly formatted for the mobile device. To Justin's point, we don't have walls of text.
Yeah.
Because with the reduced width of the device, you could have a very serious problem in terms of design that. Now you have 2 options in Unbounce. In the mobile view, you can show and hide different text selections, what's appropriate for desktop or mobile. And then when, pardon me, when you are launching your campaigns, have 2 separate desktop and mobile versions of the campaign. Target 2 different devices, and that way you'll be able to catch people at the right time and have a campaign differentiation, whether you're doing Facebook or Google AdWords or Bing, whatever it might be.
Best practice, I would say, for mobile is no more than 2 lines if it's a header. Like try to make it that 2 lines, because you will see the difference in your conversions if it's longer, because some people will see that and just not want to read it. So if you have 2 lines, it's more easily consumable. So people are more likely to scroll through.
Definitely, yeah. You're above the fold is smaller on mobile, right? Like you can see just from the page we're showing you now. Like in the mobile version, you no longer see. Oh, sorry. You no longer see like the beginning of the video or the header for the next section or anything like that. It's a smaller space to work with. So consider the scrolling effect. You know, a lot of people will do the iconography, for example, stacked across. But on mobile, if that stacks horizontally or vertically instead of horizontally, someone might be doing 3 scrolls just to get through a set of icons or something like that. So really consider the user experience of it. Really, it's all ties together.
Yeah, and again, in Unbounce, it's as simple as switching over to your mobile view. There's a small eye icon, whether it's visible or not, and you just deselect it, and that image and that element that would work on desktop will be hidden on mobile.
Yep, and then just make your more condensed headline.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So doing all the right things there. The other nice thing about Unbounce, since we're kind of on that topic, in general, is the ability to do simple A/B testing. You can have variants of messaging, and it will track your conversion rates for both of those, or however many challengers and champions that you have.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommended when you're creating your call to action library, which is something that we do. So when you're developing all of your calls to action, you can use something as simple. We use Google Sheets to do it. It's really low-tech alternative, but it is effective where as you're creating your marketing assets, you start to develop a pattern to see what messaging you're using that's actually going to connect with their personas, the people you're trying to connect with. And if you keep track of those, you will literally have an arsenal that you can turn to to quickly write copy and reuse copy from a library and save yourself just a ton of time instead of every single time kind of going, okay, let's get going here, starting from scratch. The last thing I think we want to talk about on this, since we had no problem filling that time up, is on the CRO side is a tool that is a great tool called Hotjar. And I'll just throw it up here quick.
Yeah, Hotjar is a tool. We've worked with many CRO tools in the past. If you've heard of heat maps and things like that, I know Crazy Egg is is pretty much the poster child for heat maps. Yep. But Hotjar actually, it does have heat maps, but it has a whole lot of other tools actually as well. It's a whole kind of suite of tools for CRO, for your site, for landing pages, really kind of anything. And it's we've kind of fallen in love with it. We find it very useful, especially on the e-commerce side of things, for sure. But yeah, I know Dan's got it up, giving you a little sneak preview of how it works.
I'm trying to zoom in, and their design isn't really letting me do it. But if you can see there on the screen, probably one of the most valuable things that I've gotten personally out of Hotjar is its ability to identify usability and drop-off issues using recordings. And they're really cool. They're asynchronous, which means it's not going to slow down your site. And it records actual users interacting with your pages, and you can just spend hours going through all of the different scenarios that you can see. But what happens when you're doing landing pages or site designs or conversion pages, you get really close to the project and you start making assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And these recordings are incredibly powerful. The other nice thing with Hotjar are feedback surveys. And conversion funnels. Now the conversion funnels, you can marry them up from other tools, but it's nice to have it all there. But highly recommended to check out Hotjar. They do have a good trial as well. It's just the same as anything else. You insert a small snippet of code, verify your site, and you are all set.
Beautiful.
Yeah, especially if you're in the e-commerce space, like to Dan's point, like a classic use scenario is like perhaps people are abandoning carts and you're like, why are people not doing this? Like, what is causing that friction? It could be even like a technical issue with your checkout that you aren't aware of, and then you follow and watch the recordings and discover, like a promo code wasn't working properly, or a processing issue was happening, and that's why they abandoned the order, or whatever it may be. It could also be like, for example, for the landing pages, it can be like if you have an asset you're offering someone, they come to the page, they seem highly qualified, they're on the page for a bit, but why did they not download it? Like, what happened there? So it's really interesting. Yeah, and like Dan said, you can get a little lost in the recordings watching them. They are very interesting, but I think for people searching for answers, is really what it's great to do, is look at the analytics, look at the results in Hotjar. But yeah,
totally. So I think, we'll probably kind of circle back around digital marketing or digital agency day. But landing pages and conversion rate optimization and CRO in general applies to absolutely every aspect of digital marketing, no matter where you are, who you are, what you're doing, what you're trying to do online. I think it's going to be kind of a recurring topic on our show, including e-commerce. But I think for now, the next one, dun, dun, dun. What's the next topic?
Are we going right in? I guess we should go right into GDPR, eh? We're a little, I don't know.
The big news.
Hold on. General Data Privacy Regulation. Dun, dun, dun.
GDPR.
the ever exciting titling of the GDPR, yeah. So 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, so May 25th is the implementation date. I believe they announced it they announced it 2 years ago. So it's not like it's not new news. It's the fact that they are now implementing fines as of May 25th. So you've probably seen a lot of emails from any kind of apps that you might use, or any providers and tools you work with that are sending you emails that are like, hey, we're GDPR compliant. This is what we do to be compliant. Don't worry about us. So you should similarly be thinking about the same sort of things depending on what space you're in, what role like your company plays in data collection and things like that, and also as a marketer and in your marketing efforts. And we'll kind of go over a bit about what is GDPR and what does that mean for your marketing so that you don't get a hefty fine.
Yeah, you definitely don't want want to. The heftiness of the fine is kind of the terrifying thing, I think, to a lot of people. It's pretty serious.
4% revenue or 20 million pounds, whichever is larger or something. Euros, sorry, euros. Canadian people, leave me alone.
It's up to 4% of your revenue is the maximum fine, you know, and it's it's because it's a couple of things about the GDPR. I think one of there's a few big misconceptions. It applies to the EEA, which is the European Economic Alliance, which extends, I think, 6 or 7 countries outside of the formal European Union. So I think Switzerland, Norway, the UK as well. So even with Brexit, it doesn't matter. That's not going to affect the implications of the GDPR.
And the other kind of interesting thing is that it applies to the citizens as well, whether they are living directly in one of those countries or somewhere else, like in a country like Canada, where we have lots of people who have dual citizenship and things like that. It would still apply to someone living elsewhere in the world who has a dual citizenship or a citizenship to one of those countries as well.
That's right.
So that's kind of what makes this a little bit different, a little bit trickier than some of the other legislation, such as CASL, which is, you know, kind of much less strict compared to the GDPR.
Well, and you know, CASL is a legislation currently with no repercussions, because the federal government had put that off kind of indefinitely until things could be defined a little bit more clearly in terms of the Canadian landscape. So yeah, the GDPR, for example, so if you've got a customer that is living in Toronto but is a dual EU citizen, the GDPR applies to them wherever they are in the world.
Do you think that this will make them want to change CASL though?
I think that it's, you know, I think that the Canadian legislators it wasn't clearly enough defined. The legislation was not clearly defined in terms of what the onus was on the marketer or the business. And that's what became, what is consent, what is a prior business relationship, and what are the lines, how are they drawn, right? So I think yeah, they're going to watch to see how GDPR rolls out for sure. That's a great point.
And then perhaps try to mimic the, you know, and be like, all right, how should we do this?
Yeah, because I don't see why not. This gives them a chance to really see what's happening, right?
Yeah. And again, I think, you know, the GDPR goes a lot deeper than CASL in terms it's general data. So there's a bunch of things in the legislation, and if you have a business, you should consult a lawyer, because we are not lawyers. That's our standard default. But the one thing, there's a few things. There's 2 main definitions in the GDPR. You either are a data collector or a data handler. Those are the 2 biggest kind of definitions in there. So a data collector, for example, would be MailChimp themselves or HubSpot. They provide a product which collects data. So you would say Salesforce is also, because you have forums and things like that. So Salesforce is a type of data collector. A data handler would be a group like Honeypot Marketing or your business. You are the collector of that data using a tool from a data handler, okay? So what the data collectors have done is provided, and if you're using a tool that hasn't done this, you definitely want to move to one that has. They've provided GDPR compliant tools that you have to implement and use, right?
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of like meeting in the middle on that, is that they're kind of covering their butts, being like, hey, we've come up with this whole suite of tools that if you use them, you will be GDPR compliant. So that they've taken their onus, that's their responsibility on the platform side. Like Dan said, HubSpot, for example, has a whole suite of GDPR tools that they're advertising right now for everyone to use. But yeah, as marketers, it's our job for ourselves and for our clients to make sure that we are implementing those, and that any sort of really the consent issue and things like that any marketing moving forward, lead generation, sales moving forward is compliant with that.
Yeah, and there's a lot in the GDPR, but I think that there are some big brushstrokes that would cover a lot of the activity that would keep you out of hot water. And again, I think the other thing to keep in mind too is a lot of these types of legislations are really focused on companies like Facebook the big abusers, not that Facebook are the abusers, I didn't say that, but spam and people that do robocalling en masse, right? This legislation is really geared to those. And
weeding out poor marketing, right? It's not, if you are confident in your marketing, that you are marketing to qualify, you know what I mean, interested leads and everything. Like, this is more of a help to you really than anything, probably. Yep. It's weeding out the poor marketing and anything like that where people are mishandling data. So, you know, while they still try to use like kind of scarcity tactics just to get across the severity of it to marketers, they're not trying to scare us or trying to make our lives more difficult or anything. They are at the end trying to help us. And, you know, if you are doing your marketing properly and following proper marketing practices, then you are probably compliant.
Yeah.
Like, so.
And there's some things in the GDPR that are going to be a breath of fresh air. So privacy policies and how data is handled has to be phrased in layman's language. It cannot be put in confusing legalese in 17 different paragraphs of gobbledygook that people don't understand.
So no more burying things in terms and conditions in like, like, you know, I'll see on page 25 where we say that we can do this with your information.
Exactly.
You have to fully disclose in total plain language what you plan to do with this person's information. And they can also have the right to at any time request their information and what you do with it and retract that consent as well. So just a lot more kind of power to the person and their information, which is great. I think that makes total sense. And it's kind of just a natural step as well as we kind of move into this world of privacy and data and all that fun stuff.
It's important because if you see what happened with Facebook, where what they were doing was not just the data on Facebook, but they were marrying that data with Equifax mortgage and credit score data. So they were taking third-party data providers and taking their Facebook data and mashing it all up so that you have this kind of supermodel of these individuals. So one of the things in the GDPR is called data minification. And what it means is that you can't just collect every single piece of data about an individual's entire life. You have to have a reason for collecting that data, and it has to be reasonable, right? The second portion of that crosses over into other tools that you might not consider to be data collection, but they are, is the length of time to which you're allowed to keep that data. And there has to be, again, a reasonable, it's not infinite. I kind of look at this as being a good way to keep your lists current and fresh. Preventing them from getting stale.
And they're talking about recency. They want you to be speaking and marketing to people who are actually interested, who weren't, you know, a lead who perhaps downloaded something from you 3 years ago and never spoke to you again and has no interest in your product or your services. At the end, like I said, really, it's going to help you if you have, you know, a database of 10,000 leads that you're so proud of, but like they're all outdated, they're not interested, they're not qualified. It's really not a valuable list anyway. So
one point that it said was that because people are agreeing to these certain points, that they will actually care more and be more engaged when you actually get that lead as well, which is actually kind of nice.
You want to pre-qualify your leads and have them be interested. Hopefully the term email blast will go into the dustbin of history because that is not what you want to do.
Yes, I cringe when I hear that.
Yes. So the other products, for example, where the GDPR is applying, and you really want to actually kind of set this before the 25th, in Google Analytics, there's a data retention policy that is in reaction to the GDPR. So I think everybody's got it in their heads that it's your lead list or your customer list, but Google Analytics also has to adhere to the data retention policy.
Yeah, it applies to your ad platforms as well. The lead list is the first in your email lists. Your email automation is the first place I would look in terms of like segmenting that list by recency of contact or geography of contact, sending them kind of an email that if they are super outdated, to update their consent, you know, and let them know, hey, like we are GDPR compliant. We want to make sure that you are still interested in being a part of, you know, our community. Please consent, and get them to reconfirm. But yeah, to Dan's point, Facebook and Google have both released released some tools and some updates that you should look at. They've been kind of heavily promoting them. If you're in the back end at all, you'll see those little notifications. Just read them over and look at them, and make sure that you are implementing those tools as well, and really anything that's dealing with data collection and that information.
And as a small to medium-sized business, and we got Taylor Jones just joined us from Toronto. I'm assuming from Toronto since he moved there. I see your Facebook and Instagram shots.
Dan Social stalks you apparently,
like,
Taylor.
He takes great photos. So
he does take great photos.
Yeah. Again, I think the way to look at this from an SMB perspective is slightly different than a Fortune 500 company would look at it, or a data collector, right? They have a huge onus. If you do the right things with your data and you set your lists up properly and you provide, technically if you're doing all of the right things for Cassell, then you are merely steps away from GDPR compliance, right? You're already kind of 80% of the way there. So for example, you would say, for example, do you have a subscription center where your leads and your customers are able to select what types of communications they're being sent? You should have that, right? If you sell, if you sell 5 different products, or if you have male and female products, for example, I'm sure, I don't want to see anything on women's tights, right? Like, 'cause I'm not going to buy them. So why are you sending me these specials, right? So the thing being, and don't comment.
I didn't say anything.
It was on the tip of her. I know she was going to say something.
Anything.
It was a bad example. I don't know. I was thinking on the fly.
Yeah, you're not interested in women's tights. That's my comment. Let's move on.
I am not at all.
You can wear women's tights if you want to.
Oh, jeez.
Gender neutrality.
Yes,
there you go, Justin.
Right. It's 2018.
Yeah, Dan. It's 2018.
Okay, fine. I'm not interested.
We're just kidding.
This is going downhill fast, you can tell. And we're getting close to the end of the live.
But another good example, though, is that one of the conditions of GDPR is that it has to be as easy to opt out as it is to opt in. So if you are already Cassell compliant, that is also a condition of Cassell, that the unsubscribe mechanism has to be very obvious, not hidden, and very easy. So you'll often see that in the footer of most emails at this point, where it says unsubscribe here. So that's kind of, if you already have it for Cassell, then that covers you for GDPR in that sense. So there is a bit of duplication. And just like we said, like allowing people to unsubscribe if they're not interested is just a good best practice. You don't want to affect your open rates really and things like that, and affect your marketing metrics and your performance if you continue to speak to people who don't want to hear from you.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is just about smart marketing, and it's about not just clinging on to this gigantic lead list that may or may not perform for you. If you're consistently collecting and marketing to find qualified leads, what? You're looking like you're gonna laugh or something. I don't know what's going on there. If you're consistently running campaigns, and we talked about this I think last week, not just writing on your email communications, but also marrying that up with social communications, whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's Snap, like whatever the target might be, multiple points of communication to keep your leads vibrant, interested, and keep the ones that are not interested. You can segment them out, segment them down. If they're not interested, they're just taking up space in your account and probably costing you money anyways.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, and if you don't have any segmentation and you're kind of looking at us like, I have one massive list, what are you guys talking about? Take this as an opportunity to start implementing some segmentation.
Totally.
So whether it's via product or service or perhaps time and date, there's many different ways, geography, there's many different factors depending on what information you're collecting in there. But yeah, definitely just think of it as an opportunity to speak to people as specifically as possible. Some people, believe it or not, do actually enjoy getting emails from their favorite, providers and things like that. Like my favorite store sends me emails and SMS text promotions, and I don't find it annoying at all because I want to hear from them. I want to hear it. So I'm the person they're trying to get to.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh yeah, I get those pre online sale notifications.
Well, that's it, right? That's it. I mean, if it's so, I get email notifications from a company called Duluth Packs. They make canoe packs like the traditional canvas ones, but they have all of these really cool handmade products, and I like getting those emails because I like looking at that stuff.
Yeah, because you're interested, but you wouldn't necessarily, you know, at different frequency, for example, is always the example that I give, that there might actually be your VIP audience that actually wants to hear from you once a week. And then perhaps there's another audience that's like once a month is good, or perhaps there's more of a quarterly kind of a strategy to go with. If you are doing, like we mentioned earlier, an email blast, you know, that's your strategy right there. You're saying it, I'm blasting this email out and hoping something happens. You know, it's not really a strategy. It's really just hoping that you get some performance from this email you've sent. So
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So that's it for the GDPR for this week. We'll probably be talking about it lots over the next coming weeks as things start to work themselves out.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions about the GDPR, like Dan said, we are not lawyers, but obviously we are in the heat of ensuring compliancy and things like that. So if you do have questions, please either DM us or leave them in the comments, and we'll take a look and we'll make sure we do answer them.
Yep.
And help you guys make sure that you're compliant before the 25th.
Absolutely. So we do have, I know we've got a big roundup from Google I/O. And I will throw up the Google Assistant calling to book the hair appointment, which is creepy and weird. And I've also got a really creepy, crazy Boston Dynamics update video that I shared earlier.
He means like artificial intelligence creepy because of the dev conference from Google.
Yeah, no, it was so good, it was so real, right?
Yeah.
It's been all the talk. AI was definitely the focus of the dev conference. That's kind of in a nutshell or in a high level. Definitely the focus of Google, and was definitely a part of a lot of the different elements. I believe there were like at least 8 or so like huge updates that they gave at the conference. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
It will be interesting. There's a couple of other pieces of news that I ran into this week that I didn't put into the schedule.
Surprise news from Dan.
Surprise news. I see what I do is I find the things as I run across them, and then I tweet them, and then I just go back in my Twitter feed and I can remember where they were.
Well, there you go.
So a couple of big things, and this one is actually, I think, bigger than the press it got, which was almost null and zero. Instagram is introducing a native payments option. So this, I believe, to be the beginning of the war of the clash of the titans, and there already is kind of one going on between Walmart and Amazon. So Walmart does $16 billion in revenue, Amazon somewhere around $3 billion. Walmart bought Jet.com. They're battling it out.
Amazon's going to kill them.
Well, Amazon's interesting because Amazon has so much of the infrastructure, right? It's not just an e-commerce store. But Instagram introducing a native payments option means that on that infrastructure, Facebook will not be far behind. And then that could be a very interesting development.
Facebook's already trying with their marketplace.
Yeah, that's a little bit of but that's only a listing, right? Yeah. So if you would imagine that, and you know, the never-ending chase for these companies is to increase their revenue and their revenue opportunities, where Facebook has a huge amount of traction. I mean, and even after the data scandal, people are increasing their use of social media. It's had like zero impact on basically on anybody, which is terrifying in some ways. But if Facebook were to fully introduce a completely competitive option to Amazon, I think that would make a lot of waves. And this is kind of one of the first steps if you can natively process those payments.
They have alluded to a lot of things like over the last like 6 months, especially about the shop. Just like the shop functionality, like yes, the hint of like adding marketplace, but some other things as well that are there, just different placements and features. So I think it's been kind of, they've been leaving like a trail of clues that's definitely like that sales and e-commerce side is something they're going to focus on.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be. I mean, I think one of them is, it's gated. The other thing about this too is that, you know, the irony of Facebook, the questions that Zuckerberg was asked in Congress was, you know, is an ad-supported model sustainable? I mean, television's been sustainable for almost 100 years. Well, no, 70 years. So yes, they're sustainable by advertising. But I think just from a business perspective, you'd look at a Facebook, and if I were inside there and having those conversations with Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg, I'm sure that they don't want to have their whole revenue model simply based on one revenue stream. And they've got Facebook for Workplace that they're trying to, you know, promote for businesses. They've got a bunch of different offerings, but I think e-commerce is kind of it's a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, definitely a more logical step than the jobs and the dating step, I think, or just a better opportunity perhaps. But yeah, they're definitely, you can see that they are branching out and stepping and treading into other people's territories to see what else they can do.
Totally.
What kind of trouble they can cause.
Well, they're still busy copying Snap.
So there you go.
There you go. So another big piece, and then we'll circle back to the Google I/O. AdWords now has new responsive search ads, 3 headlines, and this is an interesting development, and also really impacts the formats. So dynamic search ads are incredibly effective. The automated ad suggestions is something you can try to use to optimize your campaigns. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that it drastically changes, and Google's search results have been drastically changing for the last 18 months. The point to which you can have, so if I were to just pop over here and just have a look at, if I do the Chicago Bulls, so I'm doing a search for the Bulls. So you can see here that they have been gifted the organic ranking above all, but you typically wouldn't see this. You've got the NBA.com rich snippet listing, news, profiles, the Twitter carousel here. Yeah. So you're going to see in ad-based results, where there's a lot of advertising, that the real estate for your organic listings is going to kind of be reduced even further, right? Yeah. Because if I can have these types of ads up there, and I have 4 site links and an ad, and I'm willing to pay for it, that's a large piece of that real estate as well.
Yeah, it's something we noted. It was good when we had Katie on the other week, is she outlined that, your ads get more real estate, but yes, there is only so much space, so while the ads are getting more space, that means organic rankings are getting less. So it is something to consider. You do have to scroll a little more to get to them, but that's not to say that ranking organically isn't important, but definitely a combination of the two is probably the ideal.
Yeah, and for mobile screens that are wider as well. Because most phones are taking the approach of the larger screens, so you do have more room on the mobile headline.
I like my phone a bit smaller.
There you go. Okay, cool. And the last one, it's a brief note, and I'm thankful for this because I hated the ability to switch, but AdWords is moving completely to the new ad experience as opposed to the old AdWords interface. And I spent a lot of time getting used to it, and some people on our team, when we log in, it's been flipped back, so it kind of drives me mental. So it'll be nice just to have one option and force everybody into the new one, because you got to get used to it anyways. So, so there's that. So a quick wrap up, and then we'll call it a day since we're a little bit over. So is there anything in here that was from I/O that was on the top of mind?
I thought that the smart displays was, when I went through, we're just looking at our article here, was the top kind of 8 big announcements from the Google conference, and I was personally interested in the smart displays. A lot of it was interesting. Obviously, the AI was a huge element of a lot of it, but it's this product, this smart display, that's a combination of Google Assistant and YouTube. And there's kind of they have a shot in here of the device of what it will look like, I believe. They haven't said too much. Yeah, there it is there. And basically it's a combination so that you will have the ability of Google Assistant and all the updates they've made to that to make it more conversational and to make it able to answer follow-up questions and things like that easier, so that if you ask your initial question and you don't get the answer, and like in a normal conversation when you would continue to ask questions and seek it, it can now kind of reply more just naturally that way, more genuinely. But then it's also married up with YouTube so that it can also offer a visual answer, because sometimes you're asking a question that requires some sort of visual aid, and isn't just a text-based or a verbal answer.
Yep.
Right now, if you want like a visual prompt, you need to have the Chromecast, which is like, if you ask Google Home, then you can literally say, can I have this recipe on YouTube? Then it'll go straight to your Chromecast. Yep. Where now it's all in one.
Yep.
That's coming, which is nice.
Yeah, so it's just kind of an interesting thing that this device is, will it be in everybody's home? Is this going to be what everyone's using? Like,
it literally is. And I mean, I just saw a pretty interesting one. So here's a trivia question. I don't know, this is going to be out of your time frame. There was a movie that predicted tablet computing, and it's one of the it's a legendary movie. Like it's a
Back to the Future.
Nope.
I think I've heard this before, but I don't remember what the movie is.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay, yeah.
Back in whatever 68 when it came out, and there's literally a scene with Dave watching a tablet and holding a tablet computer. The form factor looks a lot like an iPad. So kind of cool. But I think what's going to happen, and this is I can't wait to show you this Boston Dynamics.
Some prop director being like, "I told you, I told you."
That's what science fiction. Well, you know what the really interesting thing is about that time period, because now a lot of those engineers are in their 50s, right? That all of that science fiction from 2001: A Space Odyssey to Star Trek. And then you progress down the years into Star Wars and all those different things, is that inspired a generation of people to get into STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And so it's almost this kind of causality that, well, you had this ingrained in your head as a kid, and then when you start to go to design these things, you kind of get inspired by what you saw to make it come to life.
I'm still waiting for like the holographic person to pop out of my phone as I talk to them.
Yes, that probably will. Yes, that will.
We'll just have a whole
happen.
whack of teleportation in movies right now, so that in like 50 years from now, we'll have teleportation.
Nice.
Because that's my number one request for inventors and tech.
That would be pretty cool.
This is what you're saying. We need to seed the ideas now.
Yeah, exactly.
Teleportation.
Well, and it's just the whole idea of the whole concept and the idea, this highly interconnected smart home, where if you look at like a smart car now, like typical cars have thousands of sensors that are basically IoT. You're living in it now. We're living right now in the age of artificial intelligence. And the thing is that according to things like Moore's law, is that the rate of change is going to be extremely rapid, right? That in 5 years, watch this. This was released yesterday, and we can wrap based on this. And I know it's not going to look great on the stream. So Boston Dynamics is kind of like Skynet. Like this company creates crazy robotic technology.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
You may have seen the robot video. I've seen this robot jumping and picking up things and
Let's see if I can
doing lots of stuff. Feel like he's my friend now that I watch.
Or he's going to kill you.
Either way,
Can you run my errands for me?
Okay, just watch this thing. Okay, so it's running, right? Big deal. No, nothing fancy there. Just wait till you see what it can do. That actually streams really well. I'm surprised. Like,
now we know.
I'm just laughing that you're like, there's just a robot running, no big deal.
Yeah, that's no big deal. But watch what it can do. Like that's a big deal right there. Copyright 2018, Boston Dynamics, the company that will bring about the end of days. I'm not even joking. They have some pretty crazy Boston. It's really cool.
We'll be sure to tag Boston Dynamics in this live so they can hear these nice shout outs you're giving them.
Smith is still alive, so if iRobot happens, he can save us all.
There you go.
There you go. So let's just figure out a way to keep Will alive.
This will be. They have some insane videos on their Boston Dynamics page that you want to go see. It's amazing in terms of how quickly their technology is if you were to go back even a year and a half and look at the difference from a year and a half to today, it's not even close. And then you look at the Google Assistant calling the hair salon to book an appointment, and that's straight up AI. You put these two things together, and
that's a bit lazy though. to make them call for your hair appointment. Like, I want them to call like the phone company or Visa, where I'm on it for like 3 hours.
The ironic thing about that will be that you will probably have one AI talking to another AI with infinite amounts of patience to try to get their bill reduced because you're calling your cell phone company.
That's what I want.
So AI talking to AI. Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna buy this robot to sit on the Rogers hotline for me. Like, wait.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Music for
I guess. The thing is that the future is now, and that like these things. I think people hear AI and they're like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen like next year. It's gonna happen. It's happening right now. Yeah. And that's one other note, I think, that was from F8, is that the Facebook newsfeed is going to have additional artificial intelligence. So less algorithmic, more artificially intelligent, which...
For sure. It's happening across the board with everyone as well. Like Google was saying, even in their updates they made to Gmail, that's kind of one that's been under discussion as well, is this smart reply that they have. So the same way you have kind of predictive text when you are texting people, and it may kind of predict the word you're about to spell and things like that. Similar to that, Gmail now has a smart reply. So to try to increase efficiency when you're doing all your emailing and things like that, it will try to predict standard responses that you make. So yeah, to Dan's point, AI is here. It is, you're using it every day, whether you are aware of it or not. But yeah, it's only going to double down. So see more stuff from the big companies this year on AI.
Yeah, totally. All right, everybody. Well, I can tell that we've lost the attention since it's now 5:30. The viewership has gone down slightly on our live viewers, but it is 5:30. It is Friday, and it's not looking too bad outside. So go grab yourself a beer and have a great weekend.
All right, everybody.
Right. And we'll see you next week. I won't. I'll be in Lost Dog canoeing. Courtney's got it.
We'll see.